This video is supported in part by Retro Days, a place for nostalgia nerds to gather, share memories, chat, and engage. Go to retrodays.com or check our YouTube channel linked below. Hey, if you love Street Fighter as much as I do, you may be looking for a way to bring this arcade experience home. I may have the perfect solution right now.
Don't you know that you're a grown up? No games, no puns. Not allowed if you're a grown up.
Hey there, welcome back to GenXGrownUp. I'm John, I am a GenXGrownUp, and I want to thank you for checking out this video and hopefully the rest of the channel. I've had a great amount of fun collecting and reviewing these little tabletop arcade machines from the likes of Basic Fun and My Arcade, but kind of the gold standard seems to have recently been these RepliCade cabinets from New Wave Toys. And New Wave reached out to me and said, hey, would you like to take a look at the Street Fighter II RepliCade cabinet? And I replied, hell yes, I would absolutely like to. Man, so they sent me a review copy here. So just full disclosure, that's not going to impact my review, but they did send one. However, mentioning I have that centipede, let me tell you, I love the centipede cabinet from RepliCade. It's original ROMs, it's a beautiful scale, the artwork is gorgeous, lights. It's the little details that really make this kind of a premium collector's cabinet. So I've been excited to take a look at the Street Fighter II. Now this one runs about 120 bucks and it comes with Street Fighter II Champion Edition and Super Street Fighter II Turbo. So in this video, I'm going to take this Street Fighter II RepliCade cabinet to the table. We're going to open it up, give it a play test, and see just what it has to offer and whether it's worth that price point of about 120 bucks. And not only is it worth the price point, but is it worth the price point with the current standings of competition of other offerings? Before we do, if this is your first time watching GenXGrownUp, look for that little bar that lifts. See that subscribe button in the corner? Maybe give that a click, enable the notifications with that little bell so it's easier for you to see way more of our Gen X inspired content. All right, Street Fighter II RepliCade, here we go. Well, let's crack into this beast and see what this cabinet looks like. It's like a little instruction and maybe a USB cable in there. Oh, and the tiny quarters, we'll get to that. That is pretty darn nice looking. That's how those buttons feel. And they're pretty clicky too. All right, well, we'll get to that. Coin door, which I think even opens. Yeah, it does. Oh, and look, this is a mechanism. That's how you put in tokens, I think. Yeah, that's awesome. This one opens too, which is how you can retrieve your little coins. That's the tiny coins that come with it. They really kind of go out of their way to recreate so much of that arcade experience, including putting quarters in. I think it would be pretty hard to debate that this is an accurate, I mean one-to-one accurate Street Fighter II cabinet. But how does it play? That's what it's going to come down to. We have a couple of different kinds of play we have to test. Yep, that is Street Fighter II. So attention to detail starts right away with putting in a credit. The left illuminated coin slot here depresses, and that's a signal to the machine that a coin's been inserted, and you can get underway. And let's see, we'll pick Roo here. Now it doesn't take very long at all to see a few things. First, this is the genuine arcade ROM, as expected. I mean, we knew that going in, I think, and it just verifies it here. Secondly, if you played any Street Fighter II at all, you can see right away that this thing plays exactly the way it should. Man, everything is perfect. There's no screen tearing or anything. A game is playing full speed as it should. And it's the right experience. And the third thing you probably noticed right away is that E-Honda doesn't stand a chance against my Street Fighter skills. When I was in college, I actually had a dedicated Street Fighter II friend. Like, we met at college, and the only thing we did together was about every other weekend, we'd go to Taco Bell, drive up to the arcade, get about 5 or 10 bucks in tokens, and spend all day just playing this very game, Street Fighter II Champion Edition. I mean, imagine the things I could have accomplished with the time I spent playing Street Fighter II in the early 90s. But you know what? No regrets. I love it, and I still love it today. I alluded to the fact that I think it's a lot of that fine detail and polish that New Wave puts on these RepliCade cabinets that really put them over the edge. So let's talk about some of those little details that make the difference. First is these tiny little tokens that come with these machines. Now, They're kind of silly, quite frankly, but it's because they took just that extra time to go, you know what's an important part of arcade machines? It's the coin or the token you put in. Let's give you a few just to have to scale. They're to scale to the game. And even though you can't put them in this little slot, you can store them in the coin door. And just the fact that they exist and know they're there. If you have an arcade machine, you have coins. Another thing I really love is the level of customization you can access in the config menu. We noted that the left coin button is how you put in a coin, but the right coin button is how you enter the menu for configuration. Once in there, you can change the complexion of everything about how you're playing the game. Of course, the marquee is lighted. You can turn the marquee on and off if that's distracting to you or you want to save battery. I assume it's an LED, so it doesn't use much battery, but you have that option in there. You can change the backlight brightness of the screen based on what your surroundings are. You can turn it way down or turn it way up, just however it looks the best to you. They even give you the ability to change the dip switches that you would have as an owner of a real full-size cabinet right here in the config menu. And beyond just saying easy, medium, hard, you can see it's actually representing the dip switches for the actual board that are being reflected here when you change difficulty. And finally, of course, in this menu is how you can change from Champion Edition. Let's flip this over now to Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo and give that a quick test drive. Oh yeah, pick your speed. I think 2 is fast enough for me, frankly. I'm a little rusty, so let me do a little Dalsim action and see if my Dalsim is rusty.
Round 1, fight!
Take that! Haha! Ouch! Ow, okay. Ouch! Okay, maybe I'm not as good with Dalsim as I remember being, but yeah, still no question. Just like with the other Street Fighter Champion, the Street Fighter 2 Turbo plays great. It has, I mean, it's the original ROM, so it has all the features you want. You can pick your speed, all the different colors, all the new challengers are all there. Before we finish taking a look at gameplay, we've got to talk about multiplayer. Street Fighter 2 begs to be played head-to-head, you versus your buddy, fighting for who's going to pay for the next pizza. So the fact that this guy, fully to scale, except quite obviously the control panel, it would just be way too small to put 2 full sets of controls and still be wieldy. You couldn't do that. So New Wave had a novel solution to this, and it's around the back of the cabinet. You open up this little door, and there's this mini controller. It's the same as the control panel you would have on the front of the cabinet, but in this tiny handheld unit. All you've got to do is take the provided micro USB and plug right into the back of it, and plug that into the USB port on the back of the cabinet. By the way, it's worth noting that this same cable can be used to charge the unit when you're not playing it, so that's handy. And now you've got a second controller. Now you can either use this to play single player or hand this to a friend and play 2-player. And I can tell you without a doubt, it feels exactly like the controls that are built into the cabinet. The same clicky little micro switches, it feels really quick, responsive, the buttons are where they need to be. Frankly, I found it easier to play with a handheld mini controller than holding onto the sides of the cabinet to play. But I mean, your mileage may vary. It's worth noting you can get an extra one of these from New Wave if you'd like to have 2 handheld controllers. But the fact that what is included with the purchase price of the main unit tells you that New Wave recognizes how important multiplayer is to the Street Fighter 2 experience, and they make sure here that you have exactly what you need to get the job done.
But the fact that this thing was USB plugged right in the back made me wonder, what the heck is this, and is there more than meets the eye? So I plugged it into my PC to find out, and lo and behold, it's a standard gamepad. So in addition to having a second controller for your Street Fighter RepliCade cabinet, that little controller that comes in the back also will serve as a standard controller for you. 7 buttons are mapped, the 8th one isn't, obviously, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 punches and kicks, plus that start button. So you have an extra controller for any game you want to play on your PC or anything that uses a compatible USB controller. Interestingly enough, the reverse is also true. You can take a standard controller. I just plugged in an Xbox controller, and though it didn't have the buttons mapped that I needed, I was able to push a button and it recognized a controller is there. So you don't even necessarily have to buy a second mini controller from New Wave if you don't want. It seems that they follow the standards that you would find with any given USB controller. An extra added bit of polish that I noticed was that when you turn the machine off, it doesn't just kill the power. It actually goes through a power down sequence, takes a couple seconds,
puts everything in a good state, and then powers it down. It's just that kind of thing. It would be easy to just have the button be a power defeat, but it isn't. They have circuitry in there to keep the game safe and secure, so that's where that extra money is going. That's why this isn't just a $20 throwaway Walmart thing. There's a lot more here. For my money, there's a ton to like about this RepliCade Street Fighter II cabinet, not the least of which is that it is almost perfect as a 1/6 scale cabinet. It looks gorgeous, plays perfect. The controls, of course, are smaller, but it's a 6 scale. Unless you're going to shrink yourself down to a 6 scale, it's about as perfect as you're going to get for this. It has both of those games included. The only real sticking point that would stop this from being a perfect score, I mean, you released this 2 years ago, and it's 5 tokens all the way. But let's talk about where we are today. $120 for this RepliCade Street Fighter II. It has 2 Street Fighter titles in it. But the Arcade 1-Up 3/4 scale cabinet for Street Fighter II has 3 Street Fighter titles, and it runs $300 or so retail, but you can regularly get it for about $200. So I think it comes down to what do you want to do with Street Fighter II in your house. If you want to have a stand-up cabinet where you can play multiplayer easily and it's closer to the real feel of being at a cabinet, well, it might be hard to pick this up because it's not as good for that. But on the RepliCade side of this fight, the fact is this is the only portable, perfect solution for Street Fighter II that you're gonna get. I'm out at the park today. You're probably wondering why the hell am I at the park? Let's just illustrate that this little RepliCade cabinet is super portable. It's got a battery in it, it's got a nice long charge. You can take it to the park, you can take it in the car, you can take it on the road. Wherever you want, you can play genuine, proper Street Fighter with all 6 buttons and a stick, with the mini stick, 2-player as well. There's a lot to be said for that. So I don't think it is up to me to tell you how you want to play your Street Fighter II. But it's worth understanding that for a little more money, you could get a 3/4 scale cabinet from Arcade 1-Up that does the same thing, but it's not as portable. Or you could get this for quite a bit less that's uber portable. So it's entirely up to what you are looking for. But even taking all of that into account, looking at the current state of kind of the retro gaming market and what's available out there, even with the other competition, man, this RepliCade Street Fighter II is a gorgeous piece that any collector or Street Fighter enthusiast or just video game fan would love to have in their collection. So I'm gonna give the RepliCade Street Fighter II 1/6 scale cabinet 4.5 tokens out of 5. You cannot go wrong. If you have any interest in this little cabinet, you won't be disappointed. I would have spent my hard-earned money for it, and the fact that I have this one, odds are I'm gonna buy more from New Wave in the future just because of the build quality, the attention to detail, and just how much you get for your money as a collector. Man, I sure hope you found something to enjoy in this video, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye. GenXGrownUp is dedicated to bringing you new Generation X inspired videos every week. Here are a couple more you can watch right now, but for even more, subscribe and enable those notifications. And if you love what we do, we invite you to support us over on Patreon. And of course, your feedback in the comments and a quick thumbs up are always appreciated.